Hundreds of worms appear on the ground and immediately kill the horses plus 3 of the soldiers. The team runs away with the smugglers and hides in a narrow crevice. In the 26th century, a long war between humans and an extremist alien organization known as the Covenant finally ends thanks to a flimsy treaty. However, Earth's outer colonies are still vulnerable to any alien intrusions. Even though it's supposed to be a time of peace, humans send the ONI, or Office of Naval Intelligence, to keep an eye on the Covenant before they can break the treaty. On the planet Cetera, which has a mostly human population, Lieutenant Commander Locke and his team are sneaking through a forest to follow an alien smuggler called Axel. Suddenly they notice an alien spaceship drop an elite zealot, a species that Locke hasn't seen in years. Axel meets with the zealot to give him a small device that the team analyzes from afar and concludes it has a bomb inside. The team immediately splits up and Ramos manages to capture Axel while the others chase after the zealot. They notice he's running toward the city, so they quickly call for backup. Locke discovers the zealot escaped through a city access tunnel and follows him there, only to suddenly be ambushed. A fight ensues, but they barely get to exchange a few hits before Locke hides behind a door. When he opens it again, the zealot is already gone. The team and backup continue their chase and find the zealot inside the mall, so Locke jumps on top of it and fires a few rounds before asking him for the bomb. However, the zealot says it's only the beginning before jumping and activating the bomb. The alien falls to his death while the bomb releases an energy pulse that covers the entire city, yet at first it seems nothing happened. The team gets ready to leave, but at that moment, civilians around them start showing symptoms of a weird illness, like having difficulty breathing and their veins becoming dark. 2 agents that were too close to the blast are also affected, so their teammates immediately take them to the hospital. At first, Colonel Aiken of the Colonial Guard refuses to let them in because of his dislike of Oni, but Locke changes his mind when he shows him how badly sick the agents are. Aiken doesn't want this weird illness to spread, so he also sends the rest of the team to be tested just in case. All of them turn out to be fine, but as hours pass, more and more sick people come to the hospital and reports continue to arrive of the illness up to 10 kilometers from the blast site. After lots of testing, they finally learn some details. The people are getting sick from a bioagent made with a mutated element they've never seen before, and it's only attacking human DNA. No other species on the planet is sick. It seems the Covenant has found a way to attack humans indirectly, that way they can't be accused of breaking the treaty. This colony is probably a test run, and if it works, they'll go for Earth later. Afterward, the team searches the area and finds the vehicle they used to smuggle the bioagent, but not the pilots. Locke asks Aiken to work together to track down the enemy, so Aiken tells his soldier Macer to take the team to the base. Moments later, Axel is captured and Aiken begins beating him up for information, but Locke cuts in and uses diplomacy instead because he speaks the alien's language. Axel explains he hadn't known what the bomb was, he was just a middleman who got paid to carry things. All he knows is that the bioagent comes from a place everyone avoids and even calls it hell, so the zealots pay others to get it for them. Next, the team traces the vehicle's positioning and learns that the bioagent came from a fragment of the Alpha Halo, one of 7 ring-shaped superweapons. It was destroyed during the war, but a piece of it floated away and ended up orbiting dangerously close to a red giant. There's no record of the bioagent having been in the ring before, but Macer points out that it may have been formed by the supernova-level temperatures of the ring's explosion. A scan reveals that the bioagent isn't found anywhere else in the universe, so they consider blowing the fragment up. However, at that moment they detect another spaceship approaching the ring. Locke calls his superior and gets permission to fly to the ring and capture the smugglers to obtain proof of the Covenant breaking their peace treaty and blow up the bioagent deposit. This will be extra challenging because the red giant's extreme heat is unbearable for humans, so they have to complete the mission during the 16 hours of night the fragment gets when facing away from the star. To have a good chance at succeeding, they'll need the help of the Colonial Guard. Locke rushes to talk to Aiken, only to find him mourning his daughter who just died from the bioagent infection. Eager for revenge, Aiken accepts to help and brings his daughter's bracelet to remember her by. Moments later, the team leaves on a ship called Condor. During the journey, Ramos watches a video on his brace sent by his kids wishing him good luck. The sight of a nuke in the middle of the ship causes an argument over how the Oni and the Colonial Guard do things, but Aiken shuts them up and asks them to work as one unit instead of seeing each other as separate teams. Afterward, Locke reveals to Mace that Aiken used to be a Spartan, a super soldier from a special project by the United Nations Space Command. Eventually they finally arrive at the ring fragment and the Oni soldiers jump out of the Condor thanks to their combat suits, but the Colonial Guard soldiers must rappel down. Macer and the pilot take the ship away while the team starts searching the area, finding it creepy and isolated. Soon they find the smuggler ship, which is empty yet the engine is still warm. It also has its parachute out, which is weird because it seems to be functional. Near the ship, they find a compartment used to store horses that got damaged when it landed and hoof prints leading away from the site. Since spaceships can't land here, the smugglers must use horses to reach the deposits faster. The team follows the prints into a cave and finds 2 smugglers called Eris and Heisel mining the bioagent. The horses make noise when they see the team, causing the smugglers to also see them and run out of the cave. However, the team quickly catches up to them and arrests them. Bringing the horses with the containers too, the team moves to meet with the Condor. However, when the ship comes closer to the ground, it's attacked by a species of alien worms known as Thanalagalo. These creatures rush into the ship and make it malfunction, shaking it around and causing Macer to fall out of it. Then the ship briefly hits the ground before erratically flying away and crashing in the distance. Hundreds of worms appear on the ground and immediately kill the horses plus 3 of the soldiers. The team runs away with the smugglers and hides in a narrow crevice, where Locke uses a holographic device to camouflage their position. As the team searches for another place to hide, Eris explains that the worms can sense active technology and movement, so the group ends up shutting down all their equipment. The worms come very close to them, but the soldiers stand completely still and avoid being found, so the creatures leave without attacking. The team gets going again, and on their way out, Locke grabs a remaining worm and squeezes it to kill it. After walking for hours, the team takes a break and discusses the situation. Their equipment doesn't have off-world communications and the Condor is gone, so their only chance to leave is using the smuggler's ship. It only carries 2 though, and there are 9 to them, so not everyone will go home. Locke thinks they should retrieve the nuke from the Condor and finish the mission, and Aiken agrees, saying that when the moment comes they can draw straws so everyone is equal. They have a very dangerous trek ahead of them, so they get rid of their armor and only keep the oxygen and the weapons, that way the worms won't find them and there's no dead weight. As they walk toward the crash site, Horrigan suggests the Oni group should leave the Colonial Guard and the smugglers behind because this mission needs proper soldiers, not babysitters. Locke quickly shuts him up and reminds him to behave like a team. The smugglers also take the chance to remind them they're the only ones who can fly the ship. After traveling for a while, the group is surprised to find an area with actual plants and water, so they take a break to oxygenate. They use their breathers as fast as possible, but when they hear a noise in the distance, they quickly turn them off and get going, unaware that the worms are already tracking their location. As they continue onward, Wisner accidentally drops her breather, which activates when it rolls down a hill. She falls behind to retrieve it, but when Ramos goes to check on her, it's too late. Wisner is being devoured by the worms. Ramos desperately tries to pull her out of the swarm, but the worms are stronger and kill her. Then Locke shows up and grabs the breather before dragging Ramos back to the team. Unfortunately, the worms find the group as well, and as they run to hide, Locke falls down a hill and his foot gets stuck under a rock, so the worms turn to go after him. Ignoring Aiken's orders, Macer rushes to help him. She grabs Wisner's breather and turns it on before throwing it away, causing the worms to go after it instead. Then she helps Locke free his leg and they run to reunite with the team while the worms devour the breather. The team waits for the worms to leave, but they start to worry when they only have 3 hours of night left and they're still stuck there. Suddenly they see a person approaching and think it's Wisner, but it's actually the worms taking her shape to try to bait them out. Horrigan begins complaining about the situation, and when Heisel tells him how annoying he's being, Horrigan pushes him down the hill. The worms immediately surround Heisel to devour it and the team finally has an opportunity to run away. Once they're far enough, a furious Eris tries to hit Horrigan, but he's stopped by Estrin. Locke yells at Horrigan for playing God, but Horrigan points out God isn't here, so the responsibility falls on them. As they move out, Aiken reminds Locke that sooner or later he'll have to make a choice. Horrigan also approaches Locke to convince him to make a choice and stick together, but Locke is determined to let the straws do their thing for fairness. Ramos decides to watch his kid's message to find comfort in the middle of this madness, but Estrin immediately takes it from him and throws it away, reminding him of the worms. Next, the group arrives at a cliff and is horrified to discover the bottom is overrun with worms, so they have to carefully move around the edge without making a sound. However, Ramos is really losing it and whispers to Estrin to propose an alliance, but Estrin turns him down. Ramos grabs him to shake him into reason, causing Estrin to fall off the edge. He manages to hold onto some rocks and begs Ramos for help, but Ramos lets him fall to his death and tells the rest of the team that Estrin just slipped. When they finally get off the cliff, Horrigan indirectly tells Ramos he knows the truth and that he doesn't judge him. They sit to take a rest and Horrigan uses the chance to take Aiken's weapon and threaten him into giving up his breather. Locke immediately takes out his own gun to try to make Horrigan back away, however Ramos sides with Horrigan and together they force Locke to yield. Feeling like their own leader has betrayed them, Ramos and Horrigan take everyone's weapons and leave with Eris to make him pilot the ship for them. Macer thinks there's no hope for them, but at that moment Aiken finds the Condor. They immediately go inside and discover the nuke is fine. They also find some extra weapons. Macer notices that some propulsion is still functional. It's not enough to go home, but it could get them to the smuggler ship. However, there isn't enough fuel to get it going, so Aiken proposes to use the nuke's backup power cell to operate the ship. Since only 2 people could go home anyway, the third one can stay to activate the nuke manually and destroy the bioagent deposit. Once the Condor is working again, Aiken tells Macer and Locke to leave while he stays with the nuke, but the other 2 refuse and ask for the straws. Aiken decides to break his daughter's bracelet and puts a few beads in his hands, explaining that white means leaving and red is for the one staying. Macer and Locke both draw white beads, meaning Aiken is the one staying just like he wanted. After sharing a heartful goodbye, the duo leaves in the Condor, and Aiken reveals his bead is white too. He did it on purpose so he could save the youngsters. Meanwhile, Eris tries to put Ramos against Horrigan by saying Horrigan is using both of them. Ramos confronts Horrigan about his intentions, but Horrigan calms Ramos down by explaining that the ship must have an autopilot and that they only need Eris for his fingerprints to activate it, then they can ditch him. After lots of running, they're finally getting closer to the ship, but Ramos starts to suffocate. He and Horrigan decide to stop to use their last breather, and while they're distracted, Eris manages to cut his bindings and runs away. As Ramos and Horrigan run after Eris, the worms start following them, so Horrigan betrays Ramos by activating his backpack, breaking his leg, and leaving him to be killed by the little monsters. At that moment the Condor shows up but loses control and crashes on the ground, causing Macer to get hurt. Locke refuses to leave her behind and begins carrying her. It's Eris who reaches the smuggler ship first and quickly activates it, which gets the attention of the worms. However, before Eris can fly away, Horrigan shoots him to kill him and runs to the ship to take his place. This puts him in the path of the worms, who immediately devour him in seconds before going after the ship. Locke and Macer can't do anything but hide for now. With the sun already appearing on the horizon, Aiken finally makes it to the deposit and activates the nuke. The worms sense this and immediately go after him, giving Locke and Macer the chance to enter the ship and take off. As they fly away, they see the explosion that kills Aiken but also destroys the ring fragment and therefore the bioagent, saving humanity. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.